Hello everyone, I'm Darcy Bono, and today I'm going to show you how you can very easily replicate the fiery red of the Blood Angels. Now, there are quite a few speed painting Blood Angels videos out there, but I haven't seen any that capture the eye-searing vermilion color that's depicted on the box art, as well as the classic Blood Angels, such as the iconic artwork that you see here by John Blanche. So I'm going to show you that just with a very simple adjustment, you can get something much closer to the box art color red. Now, Citadel's paint range does have several Blood Angels themed reds, 2 of them in contrast paints, but ironically, none of them are able to recreate bright, vibrant orange red. Baal Red, while very saturated, is more of a carmine color. It's like a very pinkish, almost rose-colored red. This is especially evident when applied thinly. When applying contrast paints, you don't want to heavily drench your miniature. You want to apply it in thin, even coats so you don't get the notorious pooling effect. As you can see here, this is very pink, so if you applied it thinly to your miniature, you would have something that is probably more appropriate for Emperor's Children. And yes, you can apply it in multiple coats, 2 thin coats of this, and you would have a very deep, saturated red. Still not fiery though. So we will come back to how to fix that because Baal Red is still key in the recipe I'm going to show you, but I do want to forewarn you. The other contrast paint for painting red, the other Blood Angels contrast paint is Blood Angels Red. I cannot emphasize how much I dislike this color. I usually don't get on a soapbox and rant about colors because I'm not fully insane, but this thing is everything that people dislike about contrast paints. And I love contrast paints. If you look at my videos, most of my videos heavily involve contrast paints, but not this one. And the reason I kind of warn people against it is because 1, it's not very saturated, it's not very vibrant, it pools more than most, so you don't have the saturation and vibrancy you get from other contrast paints, and it takes a lot of finagling with contrast medium to smooth it out, and even when you do, it dries as kind of a brick red, so I really don't think it's good for painting Blood Angels. If you paint your Blood Angels, or if you like painting your red armor using Blood Angels red, absolutely go for it, do what you like. It is just not my cup of tea. So in order to achieve a truly vibrant Blood Angels red, ironically we need the help of the Imperial Fist. And like Baal Red, Imperial Fist Yellow Contrast is a single pigment, deeply saturated contrast paint. This results in incredibly smooth painting application and intensely vibrant colors. So all you're going to do with this is mix them together. If you would like a very orange-red armor, you're going to mix them in an even ratio. For the sake of this tutorial, I didn't want it quite so intensely fiery colored, so I mixed it 3 drops of Baal Red and 2 drops of Imperial Fist. And I'm going to show you what that looks like in just a sec, but I do have a few tips before we get started. Next, you're going to apply your red mixture over a white base coat. So for example, I primed this miniature using White Scar spray. If you're looking for vibrancy, a pure white foundation is absolutely crucial. Now some painters may be wondering, well, why wouldn't you just prime using ivory? That's used for warm colors. But let me clarify, an ivory base coat is used to make colors warmer. However, we're already working with very, very warm, highly saturated colors. So if you prime your miniature with an ivory like Wraithbone, you'll sacrifice vibrancy for color saturation that you really don't even need. And really quick, before the magic happens, I just want to point out, before you do anything, paint everything besides the red armor. The black here was done with Black Templar and then just an edge highlight of Administratum Gray, while the metallics are just Lead Belcher followed by a coat of Army Painter Dark Tone. So we're doing this, we painted everything first because we don't want to risk getting dark colors on our bright red armor than having to touch it back up. It's a lot easier to paint black over red than it is to touch up red with black on it. So paint everything, and if you accidentally get a little black on the white where the red is going to be, touch it back up with white. I recommend Pro-Acryl Bold Titanium White. It's my go-to due to its amazing coverage. It covers black almost instantly. So once you have painted everything, have fixed any errors, and your soon-to-be red surface is totally bright white, you can go ahead and apply your red contrast paint. So here we go. Again, this is 3 drops of Baal Red mixed with 2 drops of Imperial Fist Yellow. And again, if you want this to be slightly more orange in hue, you can just mix them in an even ratio. There is no contrast medium involved in this, no thinner of any type. The application of this is already incredibly smooth, but I do want to caution you, don't go crazy with this and slather it all over heavily. It's still a liquid and can still congeal because it doesn't have anywhere else to go. So try to apply it a little sparingly, but you'll see it's much easier to work with than other contrast paints due to its pigmentation. I will say that I wish they had marketed these as like an instant intense base coat rather than a quote contrast paint, because as you can see, there's actually not very much contrast. There's not very much difference between the color of the recesses and the color of the edges that should be a highlight. Now I'm going to do an optional recess shade and edge highlight just to show you how to improve upon this more and add a little more definition, but for now this is pretty much all you do. Just apply your red paint over your white surface and you will get a very intense, vibrant red. And one last thing, in case anyone's wondering what those weird little nubs are where his arms should be, he exchanged words with the infinitely cooler World Eaters. No, they are little dots, adhesive dots that I use for sub-assembly. So basically what they do is they let me temporarily stick the arms on so I can prime the miniature fully assembled and then take the arms off, which allows me easier access to painting the torso. Once the red paint has completely dried, it should look something like this. Now keep in mind, all cameras perceive color differently, things look differently on different screens, so if this doesn't look very fiery red to you, those things could play a factor. To the human eye, this is a vibrant orange red. You can enhance it further by adding an orange edge highlight. But before we do that, I'm actually going to do a recess shade to show you how you can add a bit more definition to your armor. If you don't want to do that, if you think this is just fine and you just want to get it on the tabletop looking eye-searingly red, great, you're done. Just repeat the process on the arms, the helmet, and backpack, and he is ready to roll. But if you want to add a little bit more actual contrast to your armor, stay tuned for the next two steps. So to pick out the shadows a bit more, we're going to line the recesses, the deepest recesses, with either water or Lahmian Medium. This will allow our recess shade to flow in there more easily. So all you're going to do is apply a recess shade of Shyish Purple and Lahmian Medium mixed in an even ratio. You can use water for this, but keep in mind it does make your paint flow a little bit more, so it can make it a little bit harder to control. But if you don't have Lahmian Medium, water will still work in this situation. So by applying this initial liquid layer, you're basically just using the attractive force of cohesion, where molecules are attracted to other molecules of the same type. So all you're going to do, we lined it with Lahmian Medium. We're coming in with Shyish Purple and Lahmian Medium that is thinned into a very thin shade. And as you can see, it drops down to places where my brush hasn't actually even swiped. So as long as you don't slather on that initial Lahmian Medium and just lightly blot this on to the wet surface, it will pull it into the recesses. So that's pretty much it. Just line all the recesses with Lahmian Medium and then immediately apply your Shyish Purple. And the reason I chose Shyish Purple for the shadow color is because purple has red in it. It will retain the color saturation but still provide a very dark shadow. Now some of you may be wondering, can I just use Flesh Tearer's red? That's a very dark red. And the answer is yes, but it's not going to give you quite the same amount of contrast just because it's not as dark of a color, so you get a kind of point of diminishing returns on dark red and light red versus deep purple shadows and vibrant bright red surface. So for our final step, and in order to give an even more fiery hue to our armor, we're going to highlight using an orange. For the sake of accessibility, in this tutorial, I'm using Citadel's Troll Slayer Orange. However, if you have access to it, I highly recommend picking up Vallejo Hot Orange. It's quite a bit more vibrant and saturated and is just a perfect edge highlight color for painting a fiery red. But if it's hard to come by Vallejo paints in your area, it's totally fine. Just edge highlight using Troll Slayer Orange. Ah yes, nothing quite says super secret behind enemy lines covert infiltrator unit like bright red armor. but it's fine because he looks really cool. So that being said, he is complete and ready to stare at pinup posters of Sanguinius in no time. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, make sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment, feed the algorithm gods, and until we meet again, happy painting everyone.